Hi everybody, Jim Cedar here. This is an installment of Speaking of Wine, and I have three Bordeaux I want to share with you today. The first one is the Chateau Latour 1990, and I have two reasons for sharing this with you. Number one, it's certainly a first growth, hallowed estate, well known throughout the world, but there's also a lesson to be learned here in this wine, and you'll see in a moment. When the 1990 first came out, it received tremendous accolades as being one of the best wines perhaps from Latour in the last half century. It turns out that over the last 5 to 10 years, it looks as if this wine has peaked and perhaps never really integrated quite as well as everybody thought it would at the beginning. And there's a lesson here, and that is that the rate at which these wines age in bottle is really an unknown. It's always kind of a crapshoot. So that if you're paying a lot of money, you have to understand that the wines in the end may not evolve quite the way that you think they are. At the beginning. Most of the time they do, but occasionally they don't. And the Latour is kind of a big question mark here because it looks so great when it first came out. That's not to take anything away from this wine. It's still a fantastic wine, first growth estate. Has wonderful notes of kirsch and black fruits along with kind of a typical Latour estate. Leather, sandalwood, tobacco, a lot of earthiness in this, some cigar box as well. And it's kind of that traditional blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Bordeaux. If you have some, and if you're lucky enough to have some of this in your stockpile, I would drink it now and over about maybe the next decade to 15 years. It's not inexpensive. It runs about $800 to $900. Still a superb effort by a top-notch wine estate from Bordeaux. This is on the left bank, by the way. The second wine here is jumping over to the right bank, produced by Bouard from Chateau, a premier cru estate over there. And you know, I can't say enough about Hubert. He reminds me of Luca Corrado from Viette, or the Gigal people, Philippe and Marcel. Everything that these people do, they do with just the utmost top quality. It's really amazing, from the everyday drinking and affordable wines up to the collectibles. They just don't release anything that doesn't seem to have perfection written all over it. This is the Fleur de Bouard, not to be confused with the Fleur Plus Bouard. It's the 2009. It's from the Lalande de Pomerol estate, and it's kind of a classic blend of Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon thrown in there. It's got great, rounded, rich flavors, blueberry flavors, plums, some licorice, a little bit of menthol. It's just a full and really well-textured wine. I love this wine, and even more so, I love the price. It runs around $40 to $45 in comparison to the Angelus, which runs about, depending upon the vintage, perhaps $250, maybe even $300. This one, you drink now, drink over the next 5 or 6, 7 years. And I just also want you to be on the lookout for his brand new wine that I have not yet tasted, but should be released quite soon in the next few months. It's Revelations de Hubert de Bouard. Should be even more affordable than this, so might that mean a wine that's 30, maybe even less? We'll see, but it's always worthwhile trialing his wines. The last, we go back over to the left bank, and this is the Duhart-Milon 2005. It is a fourth growth. It's a wine that you may not be familiar with, but I guarantee you're familiar with its parent. And the parent is none other than Chateau Lafite Rothschild, which says everything in the world about the quality of this in terms of its depth, its richness. It's a classic Pauillac wine. It's a blend of about 70% Cabernet Sauvignon, about 20% or so, 25% Merlot. It's big, cassis, chocolate, earthiness, licorice, graphite, really a tannic wine. Remember, this is only about 8 to 8.5 years old. And if you have some of this in your stockpile, I would advise putting it away, not opening up another bottle for maybe another 3, 4, 5 years. This is a real biggie, despite the fact it's a first growth, but it's like a classic, almost a baby Lafite in a way. So it's a great wine to trial. I would drink this, again, starting maybe in 4 or 5 years and out a couple of decades from there. Runs about $100, but when you compare it to the price of the parent of Lafite, that runs about $1,000, we're talking about 1/10 of the price. Fantastic wine, almost like a baby Lafite, and 1/10 the price. Kind of hard to beat that, if you ask me. So there you go. 2 left banks, 1 right bank Bordeaux, all worthy of your cellar. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you on the next installment of Speaking of Wine.